Hello everyone, Razorblade Mango here, and today I wanted to talk about a game that came out very recently that has been at the center of a brewing storm of, I don't know if controversy is the right word, but just general internet shit, and that would be Highguard. Now, Highguard is the debut game from this new studio called Wildlight. They are a group of people who splintered off from Respawn, who of course made Apex Legends, and they left Respawn to make this, Highguard, which is, this is one of the biggest problems that I have with Highguard, because it almost feels like this game suffers from a major identity crisis. And this video is going to be a combination of talking about Highguard itself, my experience playing it, plus just the general stuff around it. Because I know people are getting tired of comparing Highguard to Concord, but similar to how I, experienced Concord, talking about the stuff surrounding this game is actually way more interesting than talking about Highguard itself, because Highguard itself is just kind of bleh. It's, again, like I said, it suffers from this major identity crisis where in this really obvious pursuit to try to create something new and, I guess, innovative, they've crammed together all of these different influences from these different subgenres of multiplayer games, where you have elements of a hero shooter, you have elements of a MOBA, you have elements of a survival game, and then they try to add in kind of the movement and the feel of Apex Legends or Titanfall, and then they add in the horse stuff, which is fine. It's like they just don't really have the, I don't know, there's something greatly missing about Highguard that I don't really know what it is, but it's just all of these different elements combined don't really work for me. And it feels like it's pulling the game flow in multiple different directions, and it's not really good at any of them. At least not exceptional in any of them, to where it's gonna all combine together into this one cohesive, fun package that blows people away and is seen as this new, like Jeff Keighley said, and we'll talk about Jeff Keighley, as new evolution of first-person shooters, and I don't see it. So let me talk about my impressions of Highguard first. And granted, I only played about an hour of Highguard, and I played a few matches, so I think it's a fair question to ask, then what gives you, if you only played about an hour of it, what gives you the right to come and talk about Highguard? And I think that's a fair question. The reason I feel comfortable coming here to already talk about Highguard is just, there's just really nothing here. It's very bare bones at launch, to the point where on console, there isn't even an FOV slider. And apparently, I didn't play it on PC, I played it on PS5, but apparently it's not really well optimized on PC. It suffers from image quality issues. It feels like it's just missing different modes, and it just feels like an MVP, like a minimum viable product, where they just said, hey, our raid mode is good enough, let's just throw it out there. And it's not. And I think a big reason why this game to me is just so unremarkable is that, like I said, when the game was, very moment the game was first announced, this art direction is so dull. Like, I'm talking the environment, the character palettes, with the color, the aesthetic, the character designs, the character skins, they suck. There's just nothing here that's striking or memorable or cool. Concord's character designs are ugly as shit, but at least I remember those because of how distinctly horrid they were. There's nothing like that in Highguard. They all just look so bland. There's just this nothing burger of character designs. The gunplay and the destructible environments are fine at best. I mean, they work, they're okay. I mean, you point a rocket at a wall, shoot the rocket at it, it blows up like it's supposed to. You know, it functions. And another thing that I found greatly annoying, it's a small thing, but when you're going out and farming for resources, specifically these crystals, it makes you do this timing mini game where when you hit the button to throw your axe at a piece of crystal, you then have to time it again to where you get a good hit on it, and then that will make your resource gathering more efficient. I thought that was super annoying. And I will repeat the big complaint that I've seen from a lot of people is that I think for a concept like this, where it's this raid siege-based PvP multiplayer game where you're hitting at enemy bases and summoning siege machines and stuff like that, having only 3v3 at launch was a colossal mistake, because it makes matches feel so underwhelming, like way more underwhelming than they should for something that's supposed to be this raid battle. And I think another thing that really kills the vibe of this game is the lack of music most of the time during matches. It just, the 3v3 and the lack of music so much time, it just gives this dead air to the game. And I think the moment I'm going to remember the most from Highguard is there's this part where I summoned the big siege machine to attack the enemy's base, the shield around it. And when you do that, there is this blare of music that comes out when the siege machine is summoned. And then right after the thing is summoned, it just goes dead quiet. There's just no music beyond that. So then you're left looking at this big siege machine hitting the enemy base's shield. There's no music, so there's no excitement to any of it. It doesn't feel like a big deal. And there was a point where I was doing this and I was watching the machine start to break the enemy's shield, and it's just dead quiet. And then one of the heroes just randomly shouts some nonsense into the dead air, like, "We all have inner demons, and now it's time to unleash them." And I just watched that moment, and I said out loud, wow, this is so fucking lame. A big thing that I find very interesting about this game, not the game itself, is just this, it's almost like a tug of war between normie gamers, people who want to like hate this game or had it out for this game the moment it was announced because it was the final game at the Game Awards, and then the gaming journo cabal that includes Jeff Keighley that I think are overcompensating to shout down the hate just to kind of get something on the people that are review bombing the game or whatever. I mean, you have the usual suspects like the cumrag websites like Aftermath and Kotaku, you know, clutching their pearls about the negative response to Highguard, saying just dumb things like, this what's going on with Highguard, it represents the moral decay of the internet. Like, give me a fucking break, dude. Highguard isn't noteworthy enough to inspire that kind of hysteria. Oh, okay, like, no, we're not. No one's gonna be talking about the moral decay of the internet with the Highguard situation, okay? Subjectivity and all, but I look at some of the reviews or impressions that some of these outlets have put out, and it is quite something. They almost seem desperate to like it. And I don't hate Highguard, I just think it's so incredibly mediocre and disposable that reading some of these impressions, I get the sense that it's like they played an entirely different game than the one that I did. Now, they played it in a very optimal environment, which again, I think exposes the massive gap in how these people perceive a game compared to the normal gaming audience does. Where a lot of these game journos played it in the best conditions possible, where they were flown out by wildlight to whatever studio they were at, or they were given a code and then they were allowed to play with friends they might know in the industry on comms and stuff like that. So it is not reflective at all of the general casual multiplayer experience that people are going to have going into Highguard. And I think it just exposes yet again this massive gap between the game journal cabal, and then just normal average people. When you live in this bubble of toxic positivity and being all buddy-buddy with each other and game devs, I think it severely hinders your ability to read the room and sniff out bullshit properly. And I think obviously Jeff Keighley is the biggest offender in this case, because he has just gone to bat so much for this game to the point where I think his involvement with its marketing has greatly hindered it far more than it was necessary. And what Jeff Keighley did, it reminds me a lot of when Herman Hulse allegedly said Concord was the future of PlayStation and a Star Wars level IP. Because I play Highguard, I look at Highguard, and then I see Jeff Keighley talking about how it's just this innovative new shooter that's going to push the genre forward, and he'll wait for our apologies in 48 hours. It's like, dude, not this game. Like, don't hang your hat on this game. And I just think Jeff Keighley and a lot of these other people being so close in proximity to the video games industry have just diluted their senses. A lot of us looked at Highguard and just thought, no, that's not it. And lo and behold, I mean, it came out, and so far does not look like it's gonna be it. When you look at the charts on Steam DB and check out how this game went day one, it peaked at about 97k players a little after it came out, and then you'll notice a massive drop in players, and as of the time of recording this, it not even half of what it did yesterday around the same time. Not even a quarter of what it did yesterday around the same time. That's not a good sign. I mean, people can talk about Steam reviews, negative bombing, stuff like that, but these numbers don't lie. It's a bad sign when your brand new free-to-play AAA first-person shooter comes out at 97k, and then 24 hours later, it can't even get a quarter of that again. Then you go over to PS5 and you look at the trophy stats, and those don't paint a good picture either. In fact, those are not good as well. So as of right now, only about 62% of players have bothered to complete one match. 62%. One match. And there's only one mode in this game, which is the raid mode, the 3v3 one. As of right now, only approximately 6% of players have finished 10 matches. That's 10 matches. So only about 6% of players have spent maybe approximately 3 to 4 hours with this game total. Then you look at the mechanics. Only about 27% of players have planted a shield breaker, which is the thing you use to summon the siege machine to attack an enemy base's shields. A fundamental mechanic of the raid mode. 27% of players have done this. Only 15% of players have destroyed 20 walls. Again, a fundamental mechanic that is very easy to do, especially if you have a character whose ability it is to knock down walls. Less than 1/5 of the players on PS5 have bothered to destroy 20 walls in this game. I mean, that's bad. I mean, that is really bad. That paints a really, really bad, bleak future for this game. I'm just gonna say it. We all know where this is going, right? Like, we all know where this is going. I know Highguard put out a roadmap where they have plans up until the end of 2026. I get it, but I don't see this. I just, no. I'm sorry to Highguard. I'm sorry to Wildlight. I just don't see it. And you know what? I think healthy skepticism and a willingness to look outside the bubble would have prevented this from happening. When Highguard eventually gets shut down, I imagine a lot of the blame will be placed on those toxic, hating gamers by the Game Press cabal. And I would make the argument that Highguard's inevitable extinction is a result not of these hating toxic gamers, but of Wildlight and Jeff Keighley lacking good sense and foresight. You know, hindsight is 20/20 and all, but I think any normie gamer with half a brain feels that making a spiritual successor to something like Titanfall would have been a much more obvious and smarter move than this Highguard, because there's a real demand for a Titanfall or a Titanfall-like experience. And yet, Wildlight left Respawn and Apex Legends, they left those two things behind to make Highguard, a hero shooter MOBA raid survival game hybrid. I don't get it. Really, who has done more damage to Wildlight and Highguard than Jeff Keighley's involvement in this? I mean, let's be honest. I think, you know, despite Jeff Keighley maybe authentically enjoying the game and having the best intentions, I put the inevitable shutdown of this game almost squarely at the feet of Jeff Keighley, whether he likes it or not. I think putting it at the end of the Game Awards was a huge mistake in hindsight. I think hyping this thing up to high heavens the way he did was a bad idea. I think they should have just gone with their original plan of shadow dropping this at the end of this month and seeing how it went there, but the die is cast, and unfortunately the stats are not looking good. They paint a pretty grim picture, unfortunately. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about Highguard. An extremely mediocre and disposable game that is getting way more attention than it deserves, and will probably be a thing of the past in less than a year, I imagine. So thank you so much for watching. Catch you all later. Goodbye.